In this presentation, we are going to review the basic building blocks of a digital twin, providing some data about their uptake in industry. We're also going to discuss how these twins are applied to support the development of new products and services, keeping an eye on their sustainability contribution. Digital twins are listed by the global research and advisory firm Gartner as one of the most hyped technologies of the 2020s. We are topping the hype cycle for emerging technologies diagram since 2018 and are expected to achieve the so-called plateau of productivity in less than 10 years from now. They are listed in 2022 as one of the emerging technologies for the smart world, as well as one of the 7 cutting-edge technologies for people, a main building block for the European digital decade. A 2019 survey conducted by Gartner before the pandemic among nearly 600 organizations in 6 countries showed that 13% of the sample already used digital twins in conjunction with Internet of Things projects, while 62% were planning to do so. Was this promise fulfilled? Well, the 2022 Digital Twin Global Survey report, conducted by Altair, among nearly 2,000 professionals in 8 countries, shows that 69% of organizations are currently leveraging digital twin technologies. Among those who do not, a sizable portion will adopt it within the next 2 years or sooner. But what are exactly digital twins and how are they built? Well, simply they consist of a physical entity, a virtual representation of that entity, and a bidirectional data connection, linking the physical objects to their virtual counterparts. Data is fed in a circle from the physical to the virtual world, and vice versa. To develop a digital twin, one shall establish first a physical to virtual connection, in a way that the state of a physical entity is transferred to and realized in the virtual environment. By doing so, one creates a so-called digital shadow, which is not yet a twin. To create a twin, one shall also create a virtual to physical connection, so to make information to flow from the digital to the physical world. In this way, the state of the digital objects is transferred to the physical ones, on the basis of what is recommended by the virtual simulation. What are the basic building blocks, instead, needed to create a digital twin in practice? First of all, one needs to measure the state of a physical object through sensors and software. This data must be communicated to the digital world and linked to the virtual product model. These data are then analyzed, integrated and visualized using different techniques to eventually simulate the behavior of a product in a number of different future scenarios. This behavior can be visualized and controlled by the experts and non-experts using, for instance, augmented and virtual reality techniques, so that a decision can eventually be taken about how the product shall be modified and adapted to deliver the best possible outcome, the best possible value. There are essentially 2 simulation model components at the basis of a twin. Virtual product models are focused on physical properties to measure phenomena such as deformation, destructions, and more. So-called behavioral models are used to understand the behavior of a product in the context in which it is used. These are based on process simulations that shows what the physical object is doing and what it is intended to deliver, considering the interaction with its environment. The application of digital twins are many and expanding. Some examples are Siemens, which shows how to use twins to optimize the performances and weight of an electric motor for small aircrafts. Bosch, focusing on the optimization of a production scenario, considering a supply chain to improve the manufacturing key performance indicators. Schneider Electric, which exploits digital twins for the optimization of the power consumption of buildings and infrastructures. General Electric, showing how digital twins can be used to support real-time optimization of an electric grid to meet demand and offer in the energy market. Toyota Material Handling, showing how to simulate different scenarios for material handling to offer an optimized solution that includes the right number and type of vehicles to optimize the flow of goods. And an interesting vision is also brought forward by Philips, aiming at simulating the health status of a patient through the development of a biophysical digital twin to identify individual personalized treatments. The 2022 Digital Twin Survey Report shows how 28% of digital twin implementations are focusing on personalizations of products and services. Among these companies, the opportunity to create less wasteful and more efficient products, to reduce manufacturing costs, to create solutions that are easier to refurbish and reuse, and the opportunity to reduce the product downtime are listed as the main reasons why investing on digital twins in product design and development. Yet, these are not the only reasons why investing in the twins. Digital twins are discussed today as a critical technology to know more and better understand target customers and their voice. They can be used to replace ethnographic observations, which are commonly used to gather affordance information and to help designers in creating better customer experiences. Instead of interviewing and shadowing potential consumers to obtain such information, the product-customer interactions are measured directly through the data collected from various smart devices, smartphones, smartwatches, smart coffee machines, and more. Exploiting Internet of Things technologies will make possible to realize the long-sought vision of the digital twin of a customer, which is listed today as one of the most interesting innovation triggers in the 2022 hype cycle model. Digital twins can also help in formulating functional requirements for radical new products. Digital twins can provide information such as how often a product function is used, how long it is used every time, how many customers use the function, and so on. Designers can validate whether and to what extent a new design concept complies with the design constraints imposed by the environment in which it is operating, typically through virtual verification. In this regard, the following presentation will show in detail how digital twin principles are applied to support modeling failure under complex load cases in sheet metal forming.
Thank you, Marco. I will discuss further our work on sheet metal forming failure prediction and a few early stage examples of simulation-driven meta models. One can imagine a classification of different sheet metal forming activities like manufacturing, finite element simulation model, and data science separated by boundaries of product development, Industry 4.0, and digital twins. Activities around the product development boundaries, which are finite element models and manufacturing, are going hand in hand for a while. The revolution of Industry 4.0 followed later. In this presentation, I will refer to finite element models and data-driven models as digital twins. Let's look at few manufacturing defect examples where load cases are complex. The forming strain path in this part of heat exchanger is nonlinear and broken. However, conventional forming limit curves are derived just from proportional loading. In another example, in the small radius of car body part, both stretch and bending load is applied, which is influencing the formability of the material. And then finally, the example of complex load case is the edge crack during forming. Failure prediction in finite element models based on standardized material testing may not ensure the accurate prediction of these realities. Let's start with nonlinear strain path. In this wheelhouse forming example, failure occurs here. Strain path at failure has a 90-degree turn, which is highly nonlinear. Strain path, a few other critical points which is away from the crack, are also nonlinear. Standardized FLC is unable to detect this failure even with advanced yield and friction models. The source of simulation inaccuracy here is strain path nonlinearity. In the first approach to tackle nonlinearity, the forming limit curve was transformed from measurement on strain plane to strain rate ratio and the equivalent plastic strain plane. In the new plane, the critical strain is indicated by this point to the far right. This point now indicates failure if it's compared with the FLC at transverse material orientation and then rotated 90-degree clockwise in this plane. However, this method has the risk of indicating false positive failure. We then looked at how complex load case of stretch banding can affect failure in dual-phase steel and aluminium. It was interesting to observe how largely necking strain can vary based on stretch banding ratio in a range of 0.15 and 0.5 in dual-phase steel grade. We used a special stretch banding test setup to generate different stretch banding ratios. And using the proposed stretch banding correction, necking could be predicted in the autoform simulation. In this example, as you can see here, the necking is detected as a lower strain compared to here because the stretch band ratio was lower at that point. So that serves as a verification case. In an attempt to check edge formability, we studied standardized hole expansion test. The hole expansion test ratio is a popular measure of edge formability in industry standard. It looks for how much the initial center hole diameter in a metal sheet can be increased until a through thickness crack appears. In this study, two modifications of the standard test is proposed: use of draw bits and use of digital image correlation. The use of draw bits in the hole expansion test showed a moderate reduction in measurement spread of hole expansion ratio, which can be seen here. We showed that additionally using digital image correlation in this test can help to measure the strain at the onset of necking. This is a more desirable limit strain for design team, and this measurement can be used for inverse calibration of edge formability in finite element models. To build trust in a digital twin of sheet metal forming, advanced failure detection model for simulation should be developed. Then the measurements from the simulation model can be used to complement the data that is gathered from testing and manufacturing to build the meta models, which will lead to not only smart design but also smart production. Let's introduce an early stage artificial neural network driven meta model for process control. In this setup, simulation data is gathered in a design variable space and resulting strain at critical elements are recorded. With these results from a significant number of finite element simulation, an artificial neural network model can be trained and optimized. This meta model can then accurately suggest, for example, adjustment in blank holder force to compensate for changes in other process or material parameters. Another example is this simulation-driven response surface meta model that can predict spring back in a car part at multiple key points. When some of the material or process parameters are varied, this can also compensate for the desired process parameter change. And finally, the conclusion would be to build trust in digital twins of sheet metal forming, failure prediction accuracy and finite element simulation should be further improved. Failure detection based on standardized material testing may not ensure accurate prediction of reality, and high digital twin maturity is essential for a smart production. Thank you for listening. I would like to acknowledge the contribution from other researchers and our research partners. Now we would be open for question and discussions. Thank you.